be starting on teleprompters.
Okay, I can see it, as long as I can see the clock, so I know when my 2 minutes are.
But my notes are not new.
Good afternoon. Can you, oh. I just wanted to welcome all of you and thank you very much for coming to this first candidate forum. My name's Beth Dingman and I am chair of the Nominations and Elections Committee, the disappearing Nominations and Elections Committee.
Maybe.
Maybe, yes. Anyway, so I just want to, first of all, invite you to partake of this delicious spread that has been put out by GVR for us. Second, you'll notice on your table, there are some blank cards and some pens. So we're asking if you have any questions that you would like answered that you don't hear being asked by our by our MC, and then please write them down and we will collect them at the intermission and they will get asked if we have time. There's also a survey on the table that's asking you basically whether you prefer it, what time you prefer these to occur, because they could also happen in the morning in future years. Okay, so, and also there is a copy of the bylaws on your table. I will be discussing those further at the end of the questions to the candidates. And I know it's confusing, so I would like to go over that with you for a little bit at the end. So now I'd like to introduce Tony Zubicki, who will be moderating this and asking the questions of the candidates. So, Tony.
Thank you, Beth. Don't clap, don't clap. You'll never get your money's worth if you clap. So, we're going to try to move this along as expeditiously as possible. And the format will be, we will go and the candidates will have 2 minutes to do an introductory statement. If they don't use 2 minutes, or they don't feel they need 2 minutes, please don't stretch it for the sake of time. After that, the candidates have been provided with a list of questions that they know may be asked. We will go through 2 sets of 5 questions each. So we're going to ask 10 questions. So each candidate will have an opportunity to directly respond to 2 questions. When I ask them a question, they will have 2 minutes to respond, or up to 2 minutes. Again, if you need less time, that's fine. After they have responded to that question, any of the other candidates will have 1 minute to chime in if they wish to offer something to that. If they wish to express a viewpoint, they're certainly free to do that. One of the things that this is not a debate. Candidates and the audience, we are all expected to act appropriately and friendly. We're here for the benefit of GVR, and we've never had any issues in the past, and we don't want to start them tonight. But if indeed someone has a contrary opinion to something you said, certainly make that known. So what I'm going to do first, if I get my notes out. So I'm just going to go introduce the candidates first, and we'll come back and I'll call on you. So we have Dale Howard, we have Marge Gano, we have Chris McCrummen, we have Christy McHugh, and we have Barry Stock. I'd like to start out with giving you a round of applause to them. Running for the board it requires time, it requires courage, it requires patience, blood, sweat, and tears. So we are thankful that they are doing this. So these are the questions that they have. 2 things. If I speak too softly, tell me. If I speak too fast, tell me. Sometimes I have a tendency to wander away from the mic. One thing that I've been accused in the past also is I've asked the same candidate the question twice. That didn't happen, but I was accused of that. So, but if I do that, let me know. Certainly let me know. So I'm going to start, to begin with, I'm going to start this way and just work my way down. So Dale Howard, give us your introductory elevator. Who are you?
Thank you. I grew up in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and in 1972, I got a notice in the mail from Uncle Sam. And rather than join the Army, I enlisted in the Air Force and spent 21 years in the Air Force and Air National Guard. I worked in accounting and finance and then switched to IT and communications. During this time, I managed to obtain a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration with a major in accounting. After retiring, I worked 5 years for the Fox Theater / Metrotix in St. Louis and 16 years at Magellan Health Services doing desktop support and IT network administration. I've been treasurer of a Lutheran church and a Lutheran day school. I've been a condo board member and president. I'm a member of my men's club, church's men's club, which does fundraising through barbecues and Christmas trees. We raise about $25,000 to $30,000 every year that we give away to charities. My wife and I have been in Green Valley for about 16 years. We joined GVR 15 years ago, and 3 years ago we bought our forever house. We're here from October to May, and as soon as my grandkids get a little older, we'll be out here full time. I wake up each day thankful for GVR. I mean, the opportunities that it affords us, and thank God you give it to my wife, because my wife can't sit still for 10 minutes. So she goes and swims, she exercises, she dances on this very floor in the dance club and the line dancing. She plays pickleball, she plays pop tennis. She gets my money's worth, her money's worth, several of your money's worth. I thank you all for that. I'm currently on the fiscal affairs and investment committees, and I do watch the other, I either go to the meetings or watch the other ones. In my spare time, I work as a substitute monitor at the Tortuga Golf Course. And one other highlight is that I spent 30 years as an official, a sports official, so I'm familiar with conflict resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the things also, go ahead, please. One of the things also is that the responses are timed. There is a clock here. You may not be able to see it, but the candidates will be able to see it. Marge, tell us who you are.
I can't talk that fast. So, my name is Marge Garneau. We moved here in 2000, 20 years ago, actually. 20 years ago this month. We were passing through to go buy a house or build a house in St. George, Utah, and fell in love with Green Valley, and we never looked back. We sold our house in Colorado. We played tennis, a lot of tennis, until I hurt my shoulder, and then I went to pickleball, and pickleball didn't like that either. So I retired from those active sports and went to lapidary and ceramics and glass arts. I've been very involved with GVR. I served 2 3-year terms when we first came here. This is my first term on the board now and trying to come back. I haven't quite finished what I felt, needed to be done. I have a master's degree in business administration. I have always been in administration. I've done accounting. I have done CEO work. And so I have to be careful with Scott that I don't tell him what I think all the time. So it's kind of interesting to be on the other side. I've enjoyed the board. I think we work well together. This is going to be an interesting year with 3 new ones. So when we went from 12 and we're getting down to 9, this is going to be interesting because, it'll be an odd number, which I think is a good thing. There's a lot to be done. And I think I have a lot of good qualifications to, do some of the things that we're moving towards doing.
Thank you, Marge.
You're next.
Chris, and help me if I mispronouncing your name, is McCrumman?
Yes, McCrumman.
Okay.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here and giving up your afternoon to come be at this forum. Again, my name is Chris McCrumman. My wife and I moved here 3 years ago. We are full-time. Most recently, we both taught at Sarita. I taught at Sarita High School, and she taught at Sarita Middle School. And prior to that, we were both in the Tacoma area, longtime educators. I was a classroom teacher of grades 4 through 12 20 plus years. Then I moved into administration, high school principal, elementary principal, and executive director. We use the GVR facilities daily, swimming, exercise rooms. We go to the pickleball courts. We're not part of the pickleball club, but we go to pickleball courts and tennis. We're also part of the Green Valley Gardeners. We have a nice big plot out by Sarita, off of Sarita Road. It's not part of GVR, but we have a great time harvesting food and getting to know people that way. Really, why I'm running and what I want you to know about me is I'm a team player. I love working with people. I love working on projects and how to better a community. And we just really love GVR and Green Valley. And so that's really who I am.
Thank you. Christy McHugh, who are you?
That's a great question. Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Christy McHugh. I moved to, you can't hear me? Nobody can, okay. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. So my name is Christy McHugh, obviously. I moved here almost 4 years ago with my husband, who unfortunately passed away. Most of you have probably heard that story. But I used GVR extensively after that. It changed my life, essentially. And so in that process, I met a bunch of people. I met just some amazing people who supported me during that time. And I continue to use GVR every day as it's just such an incredible facility. And so the reason that I chose to do this is because I really want to see this continue for a very long time. So I want to continue using GVR. I want to see other people continue using GVR to improve their quality of life, be able to age in place in a really healthy, productive way. My background is in project management and cybersecurity. I have a master's degree in business finance. I also am a realtor. I also serve on my HOA board as the treasurer. And so I bring some budgeting, finance, long-range planning, stakeholder relations, and I want to bring all of those skills to the GVR board because I really want to see it be successful for many years to come.
Thank you, Christy. Barry Stock. Go.
Thank you, Tony. Good afternoon, fellow GVR members. My name is Barry Stock. My wife Lauren and I are both from Minnesota, and we discovered retirement about 8 years ago. Initially, not knowing exactly where we wanted to be, we did the Airbnb thing for a number of years, checked out Texas, Florida, Phoenix, and ended up in the Catalina foothills for a few years. Then we explored out a little further down here to Green Valley and discovered that this was a no-brainer. So now we split our time between Prior Lake, Minnesota, and our winters here in Green Valley. Prior to retirement, Lorna worked in the healthcare services sector, and I spent 35 years in local government, primarily between two metropolitan communities in the Twin Cities, city of Savage and the city of Shakopee. Over the years, I was primarily involved in the administration of a wide variety of city programs and services in either an assistant city administrator or city administrator capacity. The last 13 years of my career, I was the city administrator in Savage, where I oversaw about 150 full-time employees, 100 part-time employees, general fund budget, 15 million, enterprise fund budget, about 10 million, involved in a wide variety of projects, supervised, managed every single department within the city, police, fire, public works. We even had a liquor store operation, of course, parks and recreation, and every other department. And I believe if folks were to ask you where my emphasis and strong points were, they'd say economic development and finance. And so I also, over the years, was lucky enough to serve as vice president or president of a wide variety of organizations, Chamber of Commerce's, Rotaries, you name it. And I really look forward to the opportunity of serving you.
Thank you. As you can see, based upon those introductory statements, we have a significant degree of wealth, experience, and knowledge. So GVR is fortunate to have candidates running for the board who can fulfill the duties of the board and live up to what we all want as far as just being in a better community. We're going to go to the questions now. And I said the candidates have seen these questions. Some of the questions are a little bit similar. Some of the questions are also similar to the questions that the candidates may have been asked when they did a pre-recorded interview with Regina Ford. So there may be some repetition there. So just bear with me on that. So let's start with Chris. No, Chris Crumman. What do you believe is the major role or function of the board? And I'll repeat all the questions. What do you believe is the major role or function of the board?
I think the major role and the function of the board is for the corporation and for the greater good of GVR. It is not for my benefit. It's not for any agenda. My benefit as a member, but the board needs to serve as a team that's a cohesive team, working under policy governance and working together towards the common goals. I think a big area that the board is going to be looking at is the strategic plan, the upcoming strategic plan for the next 5 years. And with that, going back to, I thought it was very interesting to read through the board credo. I think that's how you pronounce it, board credo, and that idea of working together and supporting each other and supporting the board as a whole, and then ultimately supporting the corporation. It's not about my agenda or me or where I live in Capistrano or Las Campanas. It's the whole board, and the board serves the members and serves the corporation, and that's what I believe the board's goal is.
Thank you. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to ask, and I'm just going to go on whose hand raises first if they would like to follow up on that question, add something to it, take a differing opinion and view. Anybody? Well, I guess we know what that is. Thank you. Marge, tell us what policy governance means to you. And I'll repeat the question. What does policy governance mean to you?
Policy governance is something that GVR studied years and years ago. And I believe it's still part of the, what we're supposed to be doing. It's an interesting concept. Boards are supposed to set policy and change policy and make sure that policy is followed. And they hand this off to the CEO or the staff, and they do the organization and run the organization. So if we were to follow it, it would mean as a board, we would do the upper level. We would be doing policy. We would be setting goals and reviewing things that are brought into staff, but we would not be physically out there or even talking to the administration and trying to tell them how to run things. We need to, it's a hands-off kind of situation where they run it and we don't.
Thank you. Anyone like to chime in and offer more? Christy.
Sure. Thank you very much. I think that's a great answer, by the way, but I also wanted to just add that I think that the policies need to be accessible and consistently applied so that the members are aware and can understand how and why decisions are being made.
Thank you. The next question will go to Dale Howard. And Dale, this is your question. How much membership input do you feel the board needs to make major spending decisions? I'll repeat that. How much membership input do you feel the board needs to make major spending decisions?
Okay. Well, first of all, there are certain fiscal limits that the bylaws and CPM place on the board. So there's only a certain amount that they can spend on any one project without voter approval. Once we get below that dollar amount, which is 12% of the initiative's budget, if it's a large project, we do need to listen to the voters as much as possible when we're looking at major pool replacements or major renovations or additions to clubs. We need to get as much feedback. We need to interview the organizations that are involved. We need to listen to the membership as a whole and determines what's best for Green Valley Rec as a whole. It's not this little pot or this little pot, it's everybody. And it's hard because there's 13,900 households and 23,000 members, and you're never going to make everybody happy, but it's our job to try and please as many people and accomplish as many things as possible.
Thank you. Anyone? Barry?
I would just add to that, I believe that when you're elected to office, that you've been entrusted by your members, your constituents, to make decisions. And as Dale mentioned, there are policies in place that identify when we should go to the membership for a vote on certain expenditures. So generally, I'd say most of the time when we're under those limits, we should be embodied to make the decision. It's not to say we're not going to get public input. I'm out in the community every day. I meet and talk with people every day, and that's what we all should be doing. And I'm sure we all would do that. And we take that information back and we make a decision. I'm not in favor of putting items on the ballot unless the policies provide for that, because once you go down that path, you've set a precedent that's very difficult to come back from.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Christy, as a director, how would you handle competing needs or interests of the GVR clubs and general membership? I'll repeat it. As a director, how would you handle the competing needs or interests of the GVR clubs and the general membership?
So that's a great question, and I think it's an important question, and I think that it's important to start with some principles. So things like safety, broad member benefit, and alignment with our mission. So how many members are served directly or indirectly, right? If we're talking about a certain club or a need of the general membership. Whether the activity supports physical, social, or educational engagement, which is part of our mission, and the opportunity cost to other members as well. So most importantly, I think the conversations need to be transparent, explaining why some requests can be funded at a certain time and others need to be deferred, and then inviting clubs or members to provide creative solutions. So if they like shared spaces, for example. So I think it's important that we get a lot of heads in the room and think of excellent ways that we can solve problems.
Thank you.
Thank you for that answer. I would also add just that idea of collecting as much data as possible. Just truth be told, I'm a big data person. I love looking at data and seeing trends. I think when we're thinking about clubs and competing clubs, how do we get that mindset of GVR as a whole community? And it's not really competing. It's more, how are we going to work together for all members? And then also with that, just that idea of going back to the data and looking at that. And then also, none of us can look into the future and predict the future, but trends are going to be changing. And how do we try to identify some of those trends that some clubs or some other activities might not be popular right now, but might be gaining popularity. So with that.
Thank you. So you heard each director answer one question, and they've done so admirably. So now we'll go on to the second round of questions. These are questions that they have seen in advance, so they should have some idea what's coming up. And Dale, I'm going to ask you this question. What do you feel are the characteristics of an effective, quote, great director, and how do you show and display these characteristics? And I'll read it again. What do you feel are the characteristics of an effective, great director, and how do you show and display these characteristics?
Thank you. An effective director understands that his or her responsibilities are to understand that we represent 13,900 homes and that we need to make our decisions based on what we feel is the best for the group. So there will be decisions we make that not everybody will agree with, but we have to put our own personal interests aside. There may be something that I'm totally opposed, but the majority of GVR thinks is good. It's my job to support it. It's my job to make sure that you get as much of what you want as we can possibly give you with the resources that we have to do it. So it's not about me, it's about you guys and the 9 or 10 of us, however there many will be on one of the given years, is to make sure that we do the best possible job that we can to provide as much as we can to as many as we can.
Thank you. Anybody else want to enter into that? Marge first.
Well, I think to expand that just a little bit, I think every director has a responsibility to listen and to assess and to take those things back and discuss. I think communication from the members is important, from the staff, from the committees, and then the final one is to sit down with the board and try to work it out.
Okay. I saw some other hands raised. Christy.
Yeah, thank you guys for those answers as well. And I just wanted to reinstate what you said, Marge, that nobody can hear me, sorry. I'm trying again. But just to reinforce what you were saying about being a good listener, right? And then making sure that we're also being respectful and transparent in our communications. I am a huge fan of teamwork and collaboration amongst decision makers. So I really think that a good director exhibits those characteristics as well.
Thank you. Barry?
Yes, thanks, Tony. One other thing I'd add to all that, great leaders also need to be able to establish trust amongst their team and also understand the importance of empowering their employees to make decisions that represent the interests of the entire board.
Thank you. Barry, did I give you an initial question? on
No,
that?
you did not.
I did not. My notes are less than perfect. So here will be your first question.
Okay.
Do you see demographics of GVR changing? Are there any new trends that you think GVR should be paying attention to?
All right, demographics. Well, we all know we're nearing the end of the baby boom generation. So from a purely population standpoint, there's going to be less folks entering our age demographic. However, what I'm seeing amongst some younger folks is their desire to retirement earlier than what most of us have been accustomed to. So I think there might be some offset there. Also, with medical improvements, with the number of knee replacements, hip replacements, shoulder replacements, we're living longer and we're staying healthier longer. So I think that is good for GVR because most of the programs and services that we offer and the facilities serve to that clientele, people that are active. So that's positive. One other thing that's I think is interesting is that as you look from an economic standpoint, different parts of the country are experiencing higher insurance rates, particularly Florida and California. So those are probably our two primary competitive markets. I excluded those from my list for that one very reason. The cost of living in Florida due to the high insurance rates. Everybody wants to live on the beach. Of course, most of us can't afford to do that. Even with you're in a mile or 2 miles in, your insurance rates are going up. So I think that speaks well for us going forward for our market. And that's something we should try to build upon as we promote our area.
Thank you. Does anybody have follow-up on that? Chris?
Thank you for that, Barry. I'd just like to add that I believe we are at a crossroads, and that's just how I feel. We're at a crossroads in terms of demographics, population, and I think when I went down to the showcase on Monday, I was just blown away. The amount of activities for people at GVR is just incredible, and I'm just so thankful to be a part of it. I do think, having said that, that we need to look at how we're honoring people who have lived here a long time and people who haven't even moved here yet. and that will move here? How do we continually attract events that, how do we think outside the box? How do we think creatively, innovatively about attracting people? I'm of the mindset that I'm not sure that if I ever have grandkids, we don't have grandkids yet, but if we did, will they want a second home? I don't know that answer. But how do we, with that shift to demographics, how do we work on that?
Okay, thank you. Marge. What is one area that could be improved to better address the needs of GVR members? What is one area that could be improved to better address the needs of GVR members?
Whoa, that's a tough one. You know, I don't know, to be honest with you, because we have so many clubs, we have so many facilities, we have so many pools, we have all the fitness centers. We try to bring things in and create new things for people, you know, as they move here and as they bring different ideas with their retirement to us. I think that GVR meets more needs than any of the other retirement places that I ever looked or visited, and I think we visited almost all of them. We even went to Florida and decided the same thing, not going to go there. You know, if we just, I think GVR meets most people's needs. You can't meet them all, but I think we meet most. And I think when people come to us and they say, we'd like to see X, it's like the glass club when they came and said, we'd like to have a club for glass, making glass things. And I thought, oh, that ought to be interesting. And so, you know, we worked with them and the staff worked with them. And now we have a beautiful facility for them, and they do stained glass and they do, you know, all kinds of different glass products, and I have fun doing it. So I think it's hard to say we can make it any better than what it is. But if any of you out there or any of your friends have any ideas and we're not meeting them, or you think of things that maybe we could look into, please let staff know, let the board know. That's what we're here for.
Thank you. I'm going to go down the end. Barry first.
Okay, yes, this was the hardest question, I thought. Because I too believe that GVR does not need any major overhaul. You know, I think the one thing that we do need to continue to build upon is looking at our existing financial plans and looking at possible revisions to those plans so that they're in line with the financial interests of our membership, and particularly when we have ever increasing costs, and to make sure that the facility services and programs that we have today are sustainable, not just today, but long into the future.
Dale, I think you had a comment.
Yeah, as a retired IT guy, one of the things that is severely lacking in GVR is up-to-date software. I'm happy to report that Scott and the staff are working on updating our software, which will enable us to do things simply as being able to take debit cards and e-checks when we go to pay our dues, instead of having to choose between writing a check or using a credit card that charges 3%, which I know met with a lot of real excitement for a lot of members. So we buried our staff with a whole bunch of checks, but they're working on software that will improve those processes, that will merge email addresses all together in one database, so that when we want to send out some information or we want to make an offering to people, we'll have better access to all of our membership and make it easier for the staff to be able to do those functions.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Krista, I haven't asked you a second direct question yet, have I? No? Can I do that now? Thank you. Only about 20% of the members answer GVR surveys. Do you have any thoughts on some tools the board could use to ensure members' voices are heard and how we might improve member feedback? I'll read that again. Only about 20% of the members answered GVR surveys. Do you have any thoughts on some tools that the board could use to ensure members' voices are heard and how we might improve member feedback?
Sure. I think this is a spectacular question. And I think if I were going to add to the answer from the last question, which is probably against the rules, but I think member engagement is really important. And I would like to see that improved as well. But beyond that, I think trying to utilize additional tools to do short surveys, right? Surveys traditionally do not have good responses. It's just we're humans. We see them and we think, oh, that's nice, and then we walk away and we never finish it, right? So I think that trying to incorporate some tools to have quick, easy surveys for people to fill out quickly and be able to get their input in simply would be great. I think smaller listening groups might be a really good option. Maybe town halls would be a good option. And then the key though, so when you submit responses to a survey and it goes into a black hole and you have no idea if that information was ever used or how it was used or whether it was heard in decision making, I think it makes it hard for people to continue to respond to surveys and have that kind of engagement. So I think making sure that we close that loop and knowing that people have been heard and what we did with that information is key to getting that engagement.
Barry, follow up?
Yeah, just to build upon that, one idea that I had is to use pollsters or maybe volunteers to go out and at our centers and simply ask the questions. Short surveys are going to be answered. Everybody that I've met in Green Valley is very approachable, very friendly. If you ask them 3 or 4 or 5 questions, they'll give you a response. So that's one way to do some direct outreach. As Christy mentioned too, public forums, focus group sessions also work. But one idea that I had too was we have over 100 HOAs in Green Valley. Going directly to those HOAs and maybe going to their monthly meeting and get on their agenda and hold that group that's there. Seems rather simple.
Thank you. Marge?
I had a question of my husband when I saw this question on our list because, he said to me, do you realize that 20 to 25% is the national average for people that answer surveys? So I think we're right in there with the rest of the average. The other part, being on the board, I don't know that there's a lot more they can do. They put out newsletters, they put out emails, they put up notices at the centers. The board members will tell you, we talk to everybody when we're out and around. Staff talk to everybody when they're out and about. Our CEO meets with the board. He has meetings with the public and then with the members. So, we are pretty busy and we do try very hard to be out there where people can talk to us and tell us things and where we can let them know what's going on.
Thank you. Chris?
I would just like to add, I'm a big proponent of QR codes, and I think that those are the quick survey points that I really appreciated, Christy, what you were talking about closing the loop. If you have QR codes and you have a very short survey, 1, 2, 3 questions that you get, and then you bring the data to either board meetings or on the website, and you close that loop and you say, here's the data, here's what we're doing with that data, and here's why we made that decision based on this data. I think the more people that see that their voice is heard, not saying that they don't feel that way now, but the more people that feel that they see their voice being heard and seen, I think you might have the opportunity to snowball the snowball effect on the survey results and more voice.
Thank you. Barry, you owe me a second answer.
Okay.
Okay. Have you been on any GVR committees or attended any board meetings in the last year? Describe your use of GVR facilities and participation in GVR activities in the past 2 years. I'll read it again. Have you been on any GVR committees or attended any board meetings in the last year? Describe your use of GVR facilities and participation in GVR activities in the past 2 years.
Thank you, Tony, for the easy question. For the past year, yes, I have served on the GVR's Fiscal Affairs Committee and the Planning and Evaluation Committee. This experience has given me a great opportunity to listen and learn more about the costs associated with operating and maintaining the programs and facilities we have to offer. Now I have a pretty good understanding of not only of our expenditure needs, but the revenue streams available to GVR and how they fit into the overall capital improvement plan. I am also a member of the GVR Pickleball Club, and this past summer I worked with the Pickleball Club very closely in developing and implementing a survey of our club membership to determine if they thought we needed any improvements at the pickleball center that they wanted to fund, I might add, that they wanted to fund. I'm also very fitness minded, so you can catch me pretty much every other day at the Kanoa Ranch Center working out. I've also been to a number of the other fitness facilities. I also enjoy billiards, bocce ball, shuffleboard, swimming, taking a dip in the pool. I like all that stuff. While I'm still physically able, I like to participate in more active sports, but I'm holding off on some of those that are less physically demanding, like bocce ball and shuffleboard, for hopefully my later years in life.
Thank you. Anyone else? Dale?
Yeah, every year I get on my soapbox. I belong on as a member of the investment committee, and 4 times a year, the investment committee meets with our 2 financial advisors, Morgan Stanley and Corient. And the first one of those meetings that I went to, I was just absolutely flummoxed at the amount of financial information that's provided free of charge to every member in GVR. And granted, we do talk about GVR's investments, but the advisors also talk about everything that's going on in the world. And you get an amazing amount. You'd pay hundreds of dollars to have a financial advisor give you that information. And it's all there for free. There's a link on the main webpage of GVR for YouTube videos, and every one of those meetings is recorded and broadcast. And I strongly recommend anybody that has any interest in their finances that wants to learn more about it, that's the place to go, because those guys are amazing.
Anyone else? Okay. Chris, do I still owe you a question?
I think you do.
I think I do. What is your understanding of the Members Assistance Program, MAP, and how the GVR Foundation contributes to MAP? I'll repeat that. What is your understanding about the Members Assistance Program, MAP, and how the GVR Foundation contributes to MAP?
Well, full disclosure, I am new to that, and that was the first booth I went to on at the showcase on Monday. And while I've seen signs for bingo and I've seen the MAP, the membership assistance program, I don't have all the details and I don't have all the answers. What I do know is that the members assistance program is not just members assistance program, but with the GVR Foundation, there's several areas that they have donated to. One example that I learned just on Monday was that some funds had gone to buy some vibrating beds for people, for deaf folks in case of a fire. And so I wanted to, I just asked a lot more questions, and they gave me some brochures. They talked about the idea that the foundation is looking to a goal that they have $140,000 right now, looking to a goal of $1 million. And I just was really impressed with the conversation that I had, and I do want to learn more. And so that's what I know now.
Thank you. Marge.
He finally asked a question I can answer. So
You can answer all the questions, Marge.
All right.
Absolutely.
the foundation actually does different activities and takes donations that they use for our MAP program. So the MAP program is actually part of GVR. So it's what that is if I can't afford to pay my dues, then I can fill out the form and take it down to GVR and see if I qualify for help. And there's people that get help all the way down to 25%. Others get full dues paid because they just don't have the income. Just recently, the foundation opened the bingo. And this year we were real thrilled because we actually got more than our 25,000 that they donate towards the MAP program. They gave us 30,000. So it's a really neat program. It really helps our members. And for those who qualify for the help, it's a resource that's really neat for GVR to have.
Barry?
Yeah, just to build on that, I think most people know that the foundation is a tax exempt organization. So if you are still not taking the standard deduction on your federal tax form and you're itemizing, you could take it as a charitable deduction. GVR is not a tax exempt organization. Although if you give to GVR as a part of your membership dues, I know that that amount is dedicated to the MAP program. Since the foundation or the GVR Foundation isn't obligated to give money every year to MAP. I have no doubt that they will continue, but they're not obligated to. And as membership changes, they could change their policies and give to a wide variety of things.
Anybody else?
The other thing that I kind of forgot about until I was reading in one of the minute notes is a lot of our clubs donate money to MAP as well as a part of their charitable, even though it's not a deductible, but as a charity, they chip in and help out. So we thank them as well.
Okay. A point of personal preference, I'm a big believer in MAP. And if you don't know about it, at least look into it. Have I asked everybody 2 questions? All right. We got time to spare, boys and girls. We're going to go right on to the surprise questions. These are questions that will probably not sound too foreign to any of the candidates. They're issues that people are aware of, but they haven't had advanced knowledge of them. The preceding questions that they answered, they actually saw the questions. These questions they have not seen before. The same rules will apply. The respondent, the initial respondent, will have 2 minutes to reply, and then anybody else that wishes to add in, they have a minute to do so also. So, Christy, still here? Okay. What are some of the best things that GVR provides for its members?
Oh my gosh, I only have 2 minutes. So, wow, GVR, so at a high level, GVR provides physical, social, and educational opportunities for virtually anything that you could think of, right? And I think that what those 3 things provide is a way for people to make friends, to get involved in their community, to allow Green Valley to feel like a home for them. Most people aren't from here, right? So coming into the community and being able to get involved in those activities and meet people and start to grow your own community around you is it's one of the most important things in our lives, is like ensuring that we have social interaction with people, right? And beyond the high level pieces there, it allows people to start new hobbies that they probably never ever thought in a million years that they were interested in, right? I have a neighbor who is in woodworking because he went to the wood shop and he thought it was the coolest thing in the whole world, and all of a sudden he's making all this amazing stuff, right? So I think it just provides people this opportunity to expand on who they are and become somebody completely well-rounded and new and different. And I'm babbling at this point, but I only have 26 seconds left. So I just think that GVR offers to people anything that they could ever think that they might be interested in doing, and a way to do it, and a way to stay healthy and active and social for as many years as they can possibly do it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Chris?
I really appreciate your answer. I just wanted to add on that I just think it's affordability. Not only do we have all these activities for everybody, and again, when I went to that showcase, it was just great to see so many activities and events showcased there. but it's the affordability. I haven't done the research. I know GVR has done the research, but I don't think you're going to find a place anywhere in the country that is the affordability factor that we have here. And so I just wanted to add that piece.
Thank you. Barry?
I'll just build on that. The value that the program services and facilities that GVR offers are unbelievable. You can't find it anywhere else in the country. It is truly unique. And I like to tell people back home, if you can't find something to do in Green Valley, you have a very lack initiative. Let's just say that. You lack initiative.
Dale?
Well, I also went down to the Springs for their open house and walked into the clay studio and the glass art studio and the art studio. And it's absolutely amazing the amount of talent that's in our 23,000 members. We see them in the grocery stores. We pass them on the, they are amazing. I walked into the glass art studio, saw 3 different roadrunners done 3 entirely different ways, all amazingly beautiful. I know Bev's a glass arts person, and you walk into those and they have such a sense of pride when people walk in and want to look at their work. And it's like, I'm just absolutely amazed with the amount of talent. And I'm glad we provide the facilities that let them express that talent.
Thank you. Anybody else? Dale, I'm going to stick with you. Is that okay? Okay. Given that each of the 5 of you up here have extensive backgrounds in management, how hard will it be for you to stick with developing policy and leaving management to the CEO? I'll state it again. Given that most of you, or not all of you, have extensive backgrounds in management, how hard will it be for you to stick to developing policy and leaving management to our CEO?
Okay, well, very simply, our job is to establish policy, to tell the CEO what we want done and to get out of his way. That's what we hired him for. I mean, the thing that just, we have to understand that all 9 or 10 of us, however many there are on the board, is that's not our job. We don't run this show. We express what we'd like to see, and we pay people to do that. So Scott is the only one that answers to us, and he tells all the rest of the people what to do, and they make it happen. And the staff here is amazing. Scott does an absolutely wonderful job of managing all these people, and he listens. If we have a question, I was here for the very first member meet and greet with him, and I asked him a question, and he sent me an answer. And I'm like, it's been that way ever since. You ask him to do things, and he tells you what he's doing and why he's doing it, but we let him do it.
Marge?
At the last board meeting, somebody looked at me and said, let Scott manage. And I think, that was a good reminder for me, because I think all of us have that experience or experiences in our life, over our life, of running things, of having our own opinions, of wanting to do things our way. And he listens. He's very good at listening. He nods his head. Sometimes he even makes notes. I don't think he's really making notes, but he lets us think he is. And then life goes on. And, we remind each other many times over the last several meetings that back off. You're setting policy, but you got to let him do the operation. So.
Thank you. Barry?
This will be very easy for me, because for 35 years I was on the other side, having to respond to elected officials who oftentimes got out of their lane, let's just say. So this will not be hard for me to stay within my lane, Scott.
Chris?
I just want to add to that I do have experience in policy governance as a high school and elementary principal, executive director in a school district up in Federal Way, Washington. We were knee deep in policy governance. So we had school board and a superintendent, and that was a great experience to understand. School board members coming in to look at your school and ask you questions. It was the superintendent is the employee. And so that separation is going to be really easy for me. I've had experience in that.
Thank you. Another personal point of privilege here. We're fortunate to have Scott as our CEO. He does a good job. He's a hard worker. He handles some tough situations with class, intelligence, and integrity. We should be thankful for him. Hey, you can pay me later, Mr. Scott. Okay. Chris, do you have any strategies for dealing with tensions or personality conflicts among board members? Not that that's ever happened here. I'll repeat that question. Do you have any strategies for dealing with tensions or personality conflicts among board members?
That's a loaded question. Humor, creativity, humility. I think there's words that you can use strategies. Again, it goes back to policy governance. We can go back to our mission statement of how are we enhancing the lives of all of our members. But with a board specifically, I think it's going to be important that if I'm on the board or if I'm not on the board, whoever is on the board is working together in closed door sessions. If there is tension, people are brought together and we talk about that. And I think an open, honest policy when you're having a discussion about things, it goes back to the board credo. I think that's really important. How we treat each other with respect. Once a decision is made, how do we move forward with that decision? And we're not backstabbing or going against that decision. We're united as we go forward. But with tensions, I think it goes back to if the team is working together and the team is open about discussion, then everybody can hammer out their ideas. We're all adults, and that's kind of how I see it.
Christy.
That's a good answer. I really thought you would draw more on your educational experience in that answer, but so I think making sure that we are listening to understand and before we debate, right? So understanding what people are trying to say, being very transparent about, our concerns or our, whatever the topic is that might be causing some discomfort for us. So being vulnerable and transparent, and then really seeking to understand how people think and try to get to a win-win for everyone is super important when you're dealing with making policy decisions and making decisions for an organization like this.
Thank you. Barry?
You might find this funny, but one strategy that I've used successfully is to take a timeout. That doesn't mean sending the elected official into the corner. But oftentimes I was in some pretty contentious meetings, and sometimes it makes sense to table a decision. Table it, send it back to a work session for discussion, or just take a break.
Marge?
You're talking to the original person who has to take the timeouts. Scott does an absolutely fantastic job of getting us training. He brings in the experts. They work with us to try and look at, where are we going to go from here? How do you talk to each other without hurting feelings? He meets with us, and I know I've had some conflicts, and he's a great CEO to have because you can go and talk to him. As a board member, his door is always open for us to go in and talk to him, and he has some really good ideas on how to resolve issues without punching somebody in the nose. So I appreciate what you do, Scott.
Thank you. And I'm envisioning sending a director to stand in the corner. Okay. Barry, what do you envision GVR will look like 5 years from now? What do you envision GVR will look like 5 years from now?
Well, I hope that the program services facilities that we have in place are still in existence. I have no reason to doubt that they will be. I hope that we if new opportunities come before us that bring benefit to our members, we consider those. I think financially, GVR is in much better shape than a lot of organizations. So I'm not too concerned about our finances over the next 5 years, although I still believe it's something we need to keep a steady hand on. So I don't know, that's about all I have. I don't see a lot of changes
Okay.
that need to be made, as I said earlier. GVR is not broken, so I don't feel there needs to be any major changes in place. However, if our members have interests that they bring before us that we need to consider, I'd look forward to that. One thing that somebody mentioned not too meeting or so ago was at the where the bakehouse used to be. I forget what that name of that place is called. Somebody help. The Del Sol Clubhouse. Have more TVs in there so we can watch more than just one football game. We need the Vikings, the Packers, and
Are there any other football teams? here?
no.
I
there-
think so. Dale, I think you want to comment.
Yeah, I want to give credit to the recreation department. I mean, they've added tribute concerts. We had a Super Bowl party this year. We went to a NASCAR race. We went to the Barrett Jackson automobile auction. There's trips planned all over the place. And I just see this growing and growing as people get interested in these things and see these things, and the attendance at these concerts is almost sellouts after sellout after sellout. And we're adding a little adult beverages over in the corner, and we're making things fun. And it's crazy to watch you people being out at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night and dancing in the aisles and doing all kinds of, I mean, it is so much fun, because it used to be the gates on our HOA lock at 8 o'clock. We never needed the code or the remote. We started needing it a lot.
Okay. Anybody else want to take a dance at Dancing in the Streets? Oh, okay. Marge, I'm going to give you a last surprise question. A little bit more serious, and hopefully all the candidates will take an option to chime in on this. What are your thoughts regarding the issues of aging swimming pools and whether they should be rebuilt? What are your thoughts regarding the issues of aging swimming pools and whether they should be rebuilt?
Why do I get the hard ones? All of our pools are aging, and Scott's done a really good job and gotten people in to look at them, to evaluate where they are, how many years they have left, what has to be done in order to keep them in good condition. I think South Abrego kind of surprised him, and I think he handled that very well. I think it surprised the rest of the board, and we're still surprised by it, and we're still working on it, and so is staff. So, I think the pools are going to be something that we and staff, but especially staff, will have to stay on top of. I think they do stay on top of the aging facilities, the aging pools, the aging people. They manage to keep, somebody heard that one. I think that the money that we spend on pools is important, and I don't think we should ever shut something down. If we have the numbers of, we have so many pools, we should not take one and say, I'm sorry, we're not going to replace this. Pools are a neighborhood thing. I know my neighbors say, Madeira is our pool. And I try to tell them, no, it belongs to GVR. And they say, we don't care who owns it. It's our pool. And I think we all feel that way about pools that are near the homes where we live. And I think the biggest thing we're going to face over the next few months is going to be the South Abrego pool. And then hopefully Scott's got a handle on the rest of them for us, and will let us know where we go from here.
Dale?
Well, I know at last couple of fiscal affairs meetings that the pools have, as a whole, have been a major topic of discussion. We have a list of all 13 pools and staggered out when they're gonna, and it's, right now we're kind of throwing darts at a dartboard that this pool's gonna crash in this year and this pool's gonna crash in that. Well, we don't know that. So we're trying to find better methods of forecasting the condition of all of the pools so that we can make sure that we have enough reserve funds that we can replace whichever pool whenever it needs to be replaced, and continue to do that without asking for additional resources from the members. Because what's scary is if 2 pools or 3 pools go back to back, right now, that's a challenge. But hopefully, if we can do a good job of forecasting the conditions of the pools and when we think they're going to really fail, not just what, oh, this is going to go every 4 years, we hope to have a better job of that.
Christie?
So I think that keeping water amenities is very important for the GVR, not only for today, but I think in the future. So as we look at bringing other people into the community, I think making sure that we are maintaining what we can maintain. I think it's going to require a really solid capital plan. And I'm not suggesting that we don't have that now, but I do think that we are going to have to really balance fiscal responsibility with what water amenities we can maintain for GVR today and in the future.
Barry?
Okay, well, this obviously is a tough question. And, you know, thank God the board created the MMRB fund within the last 5 years, I believe, to start setting aside funds for these pools. Because these pools are very, very costly. And, you know, we really need to look at the balance between managing the continued operation of these facilities and the costs on our members. I think this question needs to be asked as we do the strategic planning process in the survey, try to dig down a little deeper on how much members really understand what the cost factors are that involve. I also want to see some performance measures developed so that we really know what the cost is per user of a facility. That might help guide us in making us some decisions on which pools are more utilized than others and maybe which ones we should abandon, possibly, or replace.
Chris?
I appreciate all the answers here, and I also do appreciate the board because the South Abrego issue has been a hot topic. We all know that. So I appreciate your hard work here. Everybody has said what I believe up here as well. I think it goes back to the strategic planning, the next 5 years. What is GVR? What are we going to look like in 5 years? Globally, I think another thing we do have to look at is water issues in Arizona. So not just a pool, but water issues in general. And what does that mean for a community like GVR? We live up in Capistrano, and so we don't believe that Las Campanas is our pool. We've had the opportunity to go to most all the pools and swim, and we use them, frequently. And water's a huge issue here. But how do we get that mindset, like you said, is the community versus a whole community versus just this is my neighborhood pool. It might be mindset, but it is also capital and fiscally responsibility.
Thank you. Marge, go ahead.
I'd like to cap it off with, don't go home and be afraid that we don't have the money. Scott and his staff have done a really good job of looking at the finances and of trying to figure out how many years do we have before the next pool needs more than just a facelift. And I think they've done a really good job in figuring, and he can correct me if he wants, if we can keep the next pool from going sooner than 3 years, we're okay. We have enough money every 3 years to replace a pool. And that's without raising fees and dues and all the other things that you're all would be afraid of, and so would I. So I think financially we're okay.
Thank you. That was a tough question, and it's a real question. And there are no simple answers to that. So I'm glad that everyone gave a thoughtful response. and an honest response. What I'd like to do at this time is I want to take a 5-minute break. So if we can meet back here at 6:15, and at that point in time, what we will do is the candidates will give their final closeouts. c- uh, oh, oh yeah, before that, if you haven't filled out a card with a question, fill it out, turn them in. We might not get to all of them. We'll try to get to many of them. The candidates will give their final closing statements. The candidates also will hopefully stick around. So if your question doesn't get answered, if you would just want to ask a question on the one-on-one, do so. And Beth Dingman will also give a overview of the bylaws issues that are going to be on the election. So let's meet back here in 5 minutes.
Thank you, but no, I didn't take the other
I wanted everybody to ask me that, and everybody did. You did a great. You did.
No, it's too bad. You apply to be on the event, in the event you're not using.
I am not wearing a pen. Yeah, it doesn't have armor. You missed the mark. My background. No, that was very, great idea. Fantastic. That right now. Done. Think of it, come back. Thank you. Well, it's important to me. Almost 4 years. Our conversation.
This is the end of it. We gotta do it. So that's a major project for next year. And then it's-
Seems to be. If we could get back to our seats and get started so we can get out of here before it gets dark.
I know it isn't a hot time for it. I mean, here we go. Almost done, almost done.
Okay, so we're gonna go to some questions that were submitted by people on our ends, and I'm not gonna get to every question. Some of the questions were asking for data, and I don't want to put candidates on the spot for data questions they may not know. But I am gonna pick 4 different questions, and I'm gonna ask each candidate. I'm not gonna ask the question specifically of one person, but I'm gonna ask everyone to at least briefly address it. What should happen at the Del Sol Clubhouse? Should we sell alcohol? Barry.
First off, I would say that generally I would not be supportive of an organization like GVR going into a business that competes with the private sector. However, with that being said, we tried the private sector. That didn't work. So I am perfectly fine going forward with the plan that's in place. With respect to alcohol, I think staff has laid out a plan, a phased plan of where we might be headed. What's key is after each plan that we evaluate the numbers that are in place to make sure that we are being fiscally responsible and moving forward to the next phase. With respect to alcohol specifically, I just have some questions generally about alcohol. Really, it'd be wine and beer, I presume, and going to a hard liquor would be even a more difficult step for me to take, particularly with the insurance rates. So again, having been involved in municipal liquor operation, one of the reasons we got out of the on-sale business was the very expensive dram shop insurance costs. So we need to be cognizant of that going forward.
Christy.
Yep, I think people have been pretty clear about what they would like to see at the Del Sol Clubhouse. They really enjoyed the cafe. And so I think the plan that Scott and his team have laid out is very thoughtful as a way for us to get into this a little bit and see what kind of results we have. In terms of alcohol, I think that there's a lot of considerations around alcohol that I think we should look carefully at.
Thank you. Chris.
I think the idea of the Del Sol Clubhouse is innovative and creative. And I think when we go back to the mission statement of enhancing the lives of all our members, if that's a clubhouse does that and enhances our lives, then I'm all for that. I've visited there and I think it's a great opportunity. I think alcohol, for me, I did own a wine bar up in Tacoma. My wife and I owned a wine bar. So going back to what Barry was saying about insurance, yes, once you start adding a hard alcohol, the insurance is completely different. And I do think there's a lot of factors we have to be careful with that. Having said that, if there was opportunity for live music and food trucks and some limited alcohol, wine and beer, I think that I'm for that, especially that the idea of the phases, the 3 phases, and going slowly and making sure that we have these performance kind of marks, these ends. Like, what are we looking for to make sure that we're efficient and efficiently run?
Marge.
I'm going to say ditto. I agree with everything they're saying here. I think the bottom line for the Del Sol, whether or not we do alcohol, and we probably will work into maybe beer, maybe wine. I'm waiting for Scott to jump up and holler, stop. But I think he has a good plan. I think the staff has a good plan. We're going to work first through the breakfast. And then we get that down. If that works, then he'll expand it into some lunch. And then maybe if we're really lucky, it'll expand into some dinner. And when they get to that with the entertainment, some beer and wine. And I think we already provide that, don't we? Yes, he's nodding. I'm okay. So, you know, if we already provided and we're already covered on insurance, I'm going to let the staff worry about that. That's operations. And as a board member, I'm going to set the policy on what he wants to do with the Del Sol and where we move forward from here.
Dale?
Well, I wrote a response to the newspaper thinking that I was supporting the Scott of last year. And then Scott has now, because had a bad experience with a vendor and has having trouble with vendors and has staff now that are interested, and he's not worried about the workload that it's going to create for him. I've been to the shows where they're doing the bar. I've been to the Super Bowl. I worked at the Super Bowl party. I'm glad that we have a phased approach for the Del Sol so that we can dip our toes in the water first and then get up to our knees and then go full-fledged if it all is successful. But we've obviously created a need. People wanted a social center and we gave them one. And now we really can't take it away from them because they have won it. So we got to figure out, and I think this is a very safe, simple way to start and hopefully grow it and turn it into something very successful.
Thank you. I'm obviously not going to get to all the questions. Some of them are good questions. Perhaps if I don't get to your question, certainly corner one of these people up here and ask them what they think. But I will get to 3 more. The next question will be, and I'm going to keep this short because there are multiple questions asked here. What are your thoughts on the current guest policies? Dale?
Well, obviously, we opened a giant hornet's nest with the way we made where the board made the original decisions. And obviously, the voters spoke and the board listened and they made a significant number of changes. And they're still working out. They just had a work session today, which I was not able to watch because I was at a doctor's appointment. But they're defining the language and straightening out some more of the existing guest and I don't know that guest is the correct word for some of them, but for single owners and for owners who have another member living in their homes, you know, they've paid the same amount of dues that the married or, you know, couples that are together. We've revised a bunch. We're trying to fix 2 things. We're trying to change the policies and we're trying to fix enforcement. And we got to be careful that we don't confuse the 2 and step in each other's way.
Marge?
Well, when it comes to the guest policy, I think we've done pretty good with it. We've modified it. We've worked around. Today I got another 40 emails. And after listening to the work session today, I had to zoom in and listen. You know, I hear what the singles are saying, and I went out and said to my husband, so, okay, if you leave me tomorrow and I'm stuck in this big house by myself, what do you think about me having an extra card? And he said, it's not a guest card. It's a card for the second person. And I said, but I don't have a second person. And he said, well, but you still have a right to the second card, just like the person who has a second person. So he and I got into quite a bit of a conversation, but I listened to what Kathy was saying today as a single, and it makes a lot of sense. And I think we still have a lot of work to do on it.
Okay. Chris?
I attended some meetings, August, September-ish, I think, on some of this, and being a member that goes to the health rooms and the fitness clubs and the swimming pools, I have actually spoken up about enforcement and how do we help that increase enforcement. But with the guest past policy, I am a big believer in data, and I appreciated the data that was brought to some of these meetings to say, this is where some of the abuse is, and this is where some of the policy we can change. I also think it's an equity issue in terms of homes. I do believe that if people, I think, and I don't know all the minutia. I don't have everything detailed out, but I think that it's an equity issue when it comes to single people and 2 passes versus 1 pass. And I fully support the board moving forward on that.
Christie.
I think guest passes are in most cases a privilege, and I think that is separate from the other pass that we are talking about for singles. So I think it's important for us to have an opportunity for guests to come and experience GVR. And I also think that we need to do our best to enforce the policies that are in place.
Barry.
Well, I think the exercise that the board just went through on the guest pass was painful, but the outcome was good for where you get the 60 days for $85. I think that was a fair compromise, good compromise. With respect to singles, it is an equity issue with me. They should get something at a minimum, a 60-day guest pass for 4 people. Maybe they get that, and that gets renewed every 2 months. They can renew it for free. I mean, they should get that 60-day 4-member pass for free. They shouldn't have to pay for it. So it's an equity issue with me.
In the interest of time, I'm going to ask one last question. This is going to be very open-ended. And each of your responses, I would assume, may be certainly different because you may see it as a different question. But the card read, questionnaires often miss important topics. How about, are there any questions or other issues not covered, I'm assuming not covered, that you wish to answer? So this, I guess, is our free form question. Was there any question or topic? Start with Chris.
I think one thing that I haven't heard is how to increase access for all, for everybody, all members, whether that is Zoom on classes or people who are new coming in, or orientations or something. But how do we increase the access for all? So I've seen some of the flyers like the adaptive pickleball. That caught my eye the other day at Desert Hills. I was looking at that and I saw that and I thought it was a great opportunity to offer classes for people that have some adaptability challenges. And so how do we increase that access? No, I don't want to be on Zoom. Not everybody wants to be on Zoom. I get that. But how do we access for classes, and how can we provide, I'm not saying we provide transportation, but how do we get people to centers or to meetings and things like that? That's what I haven't heard.
Barry?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I know a lot of my neighbors are well into their 80s, maybe even 90s, and they don't participate in anything. And I wonder why. So I'd like, again, as a part of the strategic planning survey process, to try to identify what are the barriers that are preventing people from participating, and how can we overcome those barriers?
Dale?
Well, I'm going in a totally different direction. My pet peeve, this is the best security thing we got in GVR. Every one of you has one. Use it. It's the way that he can track what we're doing and how many people are doing it. If we don't do this, if we let people in the gates, if we don't enforce our own policies by ourselves, we make our own security problems. We've got to stop letting people in the gates. We got to enforce our rules, and we have to do it because we don't have the staff to do it. We can't afford the staff to do it. So it's on us.
Marge?
I really don't think that there's anything you haven't asked, or you haven't asked me, or you haven't asked a staff member or another board member. I think our members they know what they want to know. They ask what they don't know. And if they don't get the answer they want, then they ask it again and again and again until we at least look at it. So I think, all these questions are good. I think all the answers here have been very good and very interesting. And a lot of times, just sitting here, I want to say ditto, but I'm sure he wouldn't let me, but I would. So I appreciate everybody that's come and asked these questions. And if you have any more, you know how to get hold of me, I hope.
Christy.
So one of the topics that I could probably talk about for a really long time is how do we get visibility for people who may be interested in moving to the community about GVR. So we talked a little bit about this, but I think that there is a huge population of people who may choose to move to Green Valley before they retire, and especially if they work remotely. And I know that's a hot button topic, but for people who have an opportunity to find a retirement location before they actually retire, I wonder how we are trying to bring those people into the community.
Thank you. Closing statements, 2 minutes. Barry, start.
Well, first, thank you for everyone attending this evening. Thank you, Tony, for hosting. I'm pleased to be in the midst of such quality candidates. I don't think you can go wrong on no matter who you vote for. If you believe my background and experience would be of value to you as not just a member, but GVR as a whole, I would certainly appreciate your support in the upcoming election. And if elected, it would be my hope that when my term is completed, that I would leave GVR in better shape than it is today. And believe me, what I know about GVR, that is a pretty high bar that I've set for myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Christy.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. I hope everyone could hear me okay. But I appreciate the opportunity to answer some questions. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you, before this started and in between. This has been just a fabulous experience for me, learning more about GVR members and what people's thoughts are. And I really hope that I can draw on my experience and my background to bring a lot of value to the strategic planning that's coming up, and also be really collaborative and supportive as a board member and do a lot of good work in the next 3 years.
Thank you. Chris.
Yeah, thank you for hosting this and everybody coming out tonight, especially the board, like Barry said. Really appreciate the candidates here. I'm a person who values teamwork, collaboration. My learning curve is straight up right now, and I love learning. And so if the choice is that I'm on the board, you're going to get a person who wants to be a team player, wants to collaborate, wants to learn all the time, and will try to bring people together, and very interested in the upcoming strategic plan.
Marge.
Well, as you all know, I've been on the board now 2.5 years, 2.5 years, and 2 years, and it almost 3, yes. And it's been an experience. It's been good, and it's been bad, and it's been wonderful, and it's been terrible. And that's all I can say about being on any board. I do management for HOAs here in the Valley, and being on the other side of that coin, I appreciate what board members have to go through, and I appreciate them having to stick with the policy and stick at the policy level and not try to run the organization. I think we have a great staff. I think we have a really wonderful CEO. Do I get extra points for that? Okay. And I appreciate all of you coming out here, and I'd like to spend the next 3 years trying to finish some of the things that we've started. One of the things is South Abrego. So thank you for coming.
Dale.
We're spreading next year, but we're in 5 years across the effective roadmap. So where GVR is going to go in the next 5 years. And I'm very excited to have the opportunity, if elected, to be a part of that planning thing. And it's amazing how much we've accomplished in the last 5 years. It's amazing to see how much we could accomplish in the next 5. It's nice to know. Whoops, it would help if I turn my mic on. Sorry about that. But it's very exciting. I was a member of GVR for 12 years and went to board meetings and sat at home and groused and complained. And finally I decided, hey, it's time for me to stand up. You know, I've complained about everybody else. It's time for me to do my part and participate. I've done it for 2 years on the committees. And for any of you that have any inkling at all, we need committee members. Please participate. And it's a great way to be in GVR, and yet it's not a tremendous amount of commitment of time and resources, but you learn so much about GVR. And I have, in 2 years, become so informed on how this place functions, and to see the amazing staff and the amazing board members and committee members that devote their time to making sure that GVR functions and succeeds.
Thank you. We have had on display over the last hour and 40 minutes the reason why GVR is so great. It is because we have people with experience, we have people with talent, we have people who are willing to step forward for a task that is not easy. It's not necessarily popular. They're not getting paid, folks. Let's give them a hand applause. I think Beth's going to come up and talk a little bit about the bylaws. And after that, then the candidates hopefully will make themselves available. Thank you.
I'm going to prevail on you to hang in there for another 2 minutes while I go through this, if you will. The reason is because if you see these bylaws on your table and you look at them, they can be confusing. And so I just want to try to simplify and be straightforward about what it is you're being asked to vote for in the bylaw changes. So question number 1, Article 5, term of office. Okay, this one is probably the most change. Currently, a board member can serve no more than 2 consecutive terms and then be reelected after 1 year of absence. This change states that they can be reelected after 3 years of absence. Basically, a change from 1 to 3 years. So if somebody's in there for 6 years, then they would need to wait 3 years before they could be reelected again. Okay? Question 2, Article 5, nomination process. Currently worded that the Nominations and Elections Committee shall conduct a search for nominees to serve on the board. This change means that anyone can just submit an application to run for the board. Although it looks a bit confusing, it is in fact the way things are happening now, and it just clarifies the language. So that's not really a big change. Question 3, Article 7, check signing authority. Currently, the CEO needs a second signature for checks that are over $2,500. We want to, the idea is to raise that amount to $10,000 so that the check signing process is more efficient for the CEO. Question number 4, Article 8, standing committees. Currently, the bylaws stipulate 5 standing committees. This change will reduce the number to 3 standing committees, basically eliminating nominations and elections and the other committee, planning and evaluation. The intent is to put those committees into fiscal affairs and board affairs. So that is a substantive change too. Question number 5, Article 8, composition of committees. This changes the way committee members are selected. Currently, the chairperson of the committee selects his or her committee members. This change would have the entire board of directors select committee members out of those applicants. Question number 6, Article 8, subcommittees. This just removes the exception of Nominations and Elections Committee from appointing subcommittees. This revision is just intended to reflect current committee structure. So if we do away with nominations and elections in the previous article, then we're just doing it away doing away with it in this article. Question 7, Article 8, open meetings. Except for the audit committee, this says that all committee meetings, subcommittee meetings, and work sessions are open to members. Currently, committees can close meetings at their discretion. Thank you. I hope that clarifies some of this confusion, and I look forward to your voting starting on March 9th. Thank you. And thank you all. Thank you, Tony, and thank you all of the applicants and for the board, because it's been great to listen to you and your answers. Thank you for your time.
Lastly, there is another session next Wednesday. If you know of any members that could not attend, I believe the proceedings will be online. Yes? Yes, there will be on. Also, the candidates, there's evaluations of the forum, show me on tables. Please fill those out. The candidates will be available. They were interviewed. Those are online. And if you know of anybody that wasn't here, tell them at least go online and check what transpired, and hopefully they'll be able to attend next Wednesday. Thank you, and drive safely.
Hey, just real quickly, a big thanks to Nancy and to Beth for getting with IT to make sure that this was recorded so that the entire GVR membership could see and hear it.